Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you're all doing very well, guys. Welcome back to another late show, another evening show where we go through all of the latest Chelsea news regarding the club at the moment. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. And big up to Don and Dharmesh who are joining me today on a late show. This is the first time we've done it with all three of us, to be fair. I'll be honest, boys. I'll be honest. I thought, do I need to come on? And I thought, come on then. Go on then. Why not? 2 lives in one day. Let's have it. How are you doing, boys? Everything okay?
Yeah, doing pretty good. Can't complain.
Yeah, still on a bit of a high from obviously Sunday's win. It's a pivotal win for us. And that could obviously shape well for the rest of our season. But yeah, that will probably all eradicate if we end up dropping points against Everton. But yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad at all.
Yeah, look, guys. Don't worry. Of course, we're going to give you the sources. I'm not the source. I'm only saying what other people have said here. All right. I did not pick this out of my head that Jadon Sancho is staying at Chelsea. We've obviously seen something. I was actually doing the lunch show with Dan, who some of you may know, and it was when we were doing the show, so around sort of 1:30. That's when the news broke. So listen, unless this is a dreadful source, then I'm gonna presume that it's correct. Let's go straight into it. Why don't we just go straight into it, guys? Let's get into the nitty-gritty, shall we? So Chelsea have already activated the clause to make Jadon Sancho's transfer from Manchester United permanently, with sources describing club figures as viewing it as a smart investment. And this is from Court Offside. Now, I don't know if you guys have any idea about these guys as a source, but this is where the information has come from. You would presume that they're pretty confident if they're saying something like this has already happened, because this isn't something that I feel like you could get wrong. It's not, it's not like we're being linked with a player. I mean, you always have players, their names being thrown around. This is a deal which is either going to happen or it's not. The player's already at the club. I mean, what's your take on it?
Go on, Dharmesh, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, no. I was just gonna say, yeah. I'm quite content with having Sancho for next season. To be fair, I think mostly just because of the fact that for the price that we'd be getting him for, won't be as much as say we'd have to splash out. So say someone like Rafa Leao, where we have to spend above say 40 or 50 million, and then we've got other areas in the team to address as well, where we want to sign a striker. Most of us at the fan base want a new goalkeeper as well, and that's obviously not going to be cheap. So I don't mind us going for Sancho with that price, to be fair. And he has kind of turned it around past a couple of games, to be fair. And maybe he's got that in the mind of like, oh yeah, I need to buckle down, maybe play for a permanent transfer. Once obviously the season's done, and who knows, he could help us get Champions League football for next season. But I think Sancho is one of those players where I think he started off really well, but then since the turn of the year, he's been honestly dreadful. And I'll say that I'm one of Sancho's fans, but he's been dreadful for a good 3 or 4 months. But he's started to pick up a bit of form now. But as I said, with the price, I don't mind for the price. And as an option off the bench, for example, say with having Noni Esteban coming in next season as well. Obviously, we don't know what's happening with Mudryk as well. Mudryk could be back as well. So will he play second fiddle to Mudryk? We don't know. And then we've got obviously Neto as well. So at least as an impact player, I think Sancho, you can't really complain about the price, to be fair. And I think the price is, for me, the main factor in all this. How do you cost more than, say, 40 to 45 million? Then I'd say no, send him straight back. But for reportedly is 20 to 25 million, I would absolutely take him for that price. And let's just hope he can continue the form that he's sort of shown at the moment for the past couple of games. And we know what he's capable of. We've seen the goal, like the 2 outrageous goals he scored against Ipswich and Tottenham. You know that there's a player in there. He just obviously needs to shoot well. That's one of his weaknesses, but there is a technical player in there. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one with Sancho, to be fair. Don't know what you boys think as well.
Yeah, go on, Scott.
I don't want him to stay. Not because for a few reasons. I think the performances haven't been to the level where I think he's shown he deserves to stay, even for the price tag. I think considering how low the price is, apparently we can send him back for. I think that's a no-brainer for me. I also think from a planning perspective, we've got Quenda coming in 2026. I don't see much point spending 25 on Sancho to have him for a year, to have to sell him the summer after. Because if Sancho does stay next season, we still need a left winger. For me, we need someone better than Sancho. I'd be looking at someone like Lookman. Whether he suits the system is another question, but that's who I'd be looking at. If you're going to do that, like I said, Quenda's coming in. He has cost you 40 million. He's going to have had a couple of years in Sporting by that point. I think he will be at the point where, considering the price you're paying for him and the level of football he would have been playing, he'll be ready to step into potentially a backup role. That means Sancho will need to leave. Also, for me, I think I've seen enough from Tyreek George this season to say he could be our backup next season. Behind whoever the starter is. And like I said, I think Jadon's a fine squad option in this team, but we need better than that for our left wing. I also think as well, if we do end up signing him on a permanent, depending on what happens with Neto, I think there's guarantees that Noni gets sold, which I think would be interesting, but it is what it is. With a star coming in. But yeah, I just think for me, it just comes down to a lack of planning. Like, I just don't think it makes sense to buy someone who in 12 months' time, you're going to have to sell again. I know this club loves doing that with about every player they've signed. But there has to be some thought. Like, the loan made sense at the time, and even the whole clause and everything has made sense about it. But I don't think he's done anywhere near enough to show that he deserves to be here permanently, especially with what we've got coming.
Fair enough. I mean, me personally, I was very much on your side, Scott, in terms of I don't really want him to stay. I think, he's not what this team needs as a starter. But the more conversations I've had about Jadon Sancho, the more people I've spoken with about the player, I think that he has something to offer. And I'm not sitting here saying that he's going to be a starter for us, but as a squad player, there's not. What else can you get for 25 million in the modern market that is similar?
I think that's why I'm sort of on that side of like, fair enough. Sancho is not going to obviously start every single game for us and perform the way, say, other wingers do, like, for example, like Salah, the way his output's going to be absolutely mad. But I think as an option, I think he could be decent. But I agree with Scott, the fact that we definitely need a ready sort of winger that's ready to come in and obviously elevate our goal output from our forward. So yeah, it's interesting with Sancho.
I mean, me personally, like, this is another one. We're talking about all these rejects as well. There's a good argument for that, in fairness. But sometimes, there can be diamonds where you don't know they actually are, and you have to find that out. I mean, Garnacho is another one that we've been linked with. Like, let's just look at him as an example where United are trying to get 50 million for the guy. I mean, I'm taking Jadon Sancho every week all the time over a player like Garnacho. I'm not saying that Jadon Sancho is necessarily the answer. I'm not saying that, but when you look around and you see what's out there, how old is Jadon Sancho? 25 years old. He's been around for a little while now, and he has experience at the highest level in terms of playing for big teams, playing in the Champions League. He's played in these competitions. Now, he performed a lot better in Germany than he has in England, but we know there's a player there. My thing is this: if you can find someone better for the same price, then cool. But I don't see that player. Not at least when I think of it off the top of my head. I'm sure if we did some digging, you would eventually find someone. But I don't really see. Again, it's another opportunistic signing, isn't it? It's not a signing where you think, right, this is going to push us towards a league title. But what it will do is it will add a little bit of depth, and it gives us technical prowess, which, to be honest, in this type of system, especially when you're breaking down low blocks, you want technical players, because there's a lot of runners out there. You've got Mudryk, who's a runner, and doesn't necessarily know how to use that skill. You've got Noni Madueke, who can run at players. You've got Neto, who loves whipping in crosses. But I don't necessarily think we can operate in tight spaces that well, and that's probably where Sancho does bring you something, especially when he's got movement around him. Not a player to rely on when the team isn't performing, but when the team does perform and when he has players, that have confidence around him, it gives him confidence. He doesn't seem to be a player that sort of shines individually. Whatever the team does is what you get from Sancho. That's generally the the feeling that I have with him. I think it's fine. I mean, let's see what the chat's saying as well. Lieutenant Wolf says, I don't get all the Sancho hate. He's a talented player, needs the right club, and I think he's found it with us. He'll cook here next season. Trust me. The Crimson Chin Post says we need him because of Mudryk and Felix, although I would argue that maybe Felix could still stay. Do you boys know about what's happening with Felix? Are you aware of that?
Yeah, he's coming back, isn't he, to us next season, I believe, right?
Yeah, apparently he's negotiating with Benfica. That's what's come out as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which I think, to be honest with you, is like a good move for his career, to be honest. But I don't see how that deal happens. Certainly not on a permanent transfer. I think it's a loan deal written all over it. But you're never going to accuse... Like, what did we get for the loan deal with AC Milan? 5 million? I actually don't know.
I think it's 5 million, isn't it?
It's about that, isn't it? That's generally what these deals are. About 5, maybe 6 million. And that hasn't worked at all in Italy. And now we're looking at a player who is always going to be the understudy of Cole Palmer, will never get a chance to thrive as a, as a number 10 at Chelsea because of that. I would argue, if Chukwuemeka was to stay at Chelsea, then more reason not to play Felix, because I think Chukwuemeka is a much better player than Felix as well. So it's hard to see a future for the guy. But I mean, the thing is, as a rotational option, like I just said this about Sancho, I think we can agree as a rotational option. I mean, Scott, I know you don't want him, but as a rotational option, you've got to admit Sancho's all right. He's not bad as a rotation option.
No, again, though, it's just planning. It's like, okay, what do we do with Sancho when Quenda comes in?
Well, I guess this is, again, going back to that comment, presuming that you don't have Felix and you don't have Mudryk as well. So there'll probably be space for both of them in the squad by that logic.
So Sancho's our starting winger next season?
Well, I'm not necessarily saying that he'll be our starting winger, but I think there'll be a place for him within the squad.
So we need to get...
I'm under the assumption that Chelsea would probably buy another winger.
Okay, we need to buy a left winger.
I think we probably will. Yes, I think we will buy a winger.
Let's just say for argument's sake, we buy Bino Gittins. So our wingers next season are Sancho and Bino Gittins. What happens when Quenda comes in next summer?
Say that again, mate.
What happens when Quenda comes in 2026? That's 3 left wingers for 1 spot.
But someone's going to get sold, mate. Like we love a player. We love his players.
That's my point. Is that for me, there's no point in signing Sancho for him to be here for 12 months, and you need to sell him again. Like, I just give his spot to George next season and actually go and buy a proper guaranteed starter, like a Lookman, like a Leao, someone of that quality.
Do you think that if based on this source, obviously it's already been done, that clause has already been activated, but do you think that this deal has been done for footballing reasons or financial reasons?
Almost certainly financial reasons.
Yeah.
And where do you see the positives in that, even? Because I struggle to see Chelsea selling the guy for more than 30 million later down the line, if I'm totally honest with you. I don't see
there aren't positive reasons. Like, again, it's not even... The financial reasons aren't even the thing. It's like planning, like I said. We keep doing this to ourselves where we just want to buy these players. Like, there's been more links to other players today which make no sense. And it's just stockpiling. It's stockpiling for stockpiling's sake. That's all it is. You're stockpiling these players, hoping one of them bangs and you sell the rest.
Yeah, I mean, again, when we talk about Vince, like this isn't obviously Vince that I'm quoting here. This is the source is caught offside. So it's not Vince that's come out with this information. He's just simply sharing the source. So I don't know. I don't really know much about caught offsides. To be honest with you, I've never really been... Obviously, now we do a lot more live content. This is the sort of stuff that comes up. So I've never really been into it. So it's hard for me to judge how trustworthy this source is. But it just seems like one of those things that you can't really get wrong. Do you know what I mean? If you get this wrong, then you are just blatantly lying and your credibility is out the window. I don't see why they would do that. Because I've heard of caught offside. I just don't really know much about what they report. So I'm presuming that it is done. I mean, it's just going. Let's just go on confidence sake. But let's say it isn't done, then we don't get Sancho. What's your plan then, Scott? Are you saying that
Sterling.
You're saying Sterling?
Maybe to go and sign Lookman. No. I don't know why that guy's talking about Sterling. The chat Sterling can leave.
I saw someone
Sterling,
comment that.
Sterling
I
can
went,
fuck
"What?"
off to the He can fuck off to the closest London club.
But why did
I'm going to
you
be
say
Lookman.
that you
That's my
said
number
that?
one signing.
You never said that on Twitter then.
It's probably different, Scott.
But you can check my. I don't delete my tweets, by the way. You can check my tweets.
I'm not involved in all that. Hey, listen, I believe you. I believe you.
Yeah, I go and sign Lookman. He wants to leave. It's quite clear there's some funny business going on there at Atalanta. Like, he's shown he's a goal scorer. He can assist. He links up very well with the striker that I want at this football club. Like, that's a no-brainer to me. System fit might be a bit of an issue, as I mentioned earlier, but that you can work around that. That's my number one starter I'm getting. And then, like I said, he's going to play 90% of the games next season. You have George at the backup to play the other 10%. And then George either sinks or swims. If he swims, then he maybe has a place going forward, or you maybe loan him or whatever. If he sinks, you sell him, and you've got Quenda as the backup for 2026.
Okay, so that's your start. I mean, do you have anything else on this, Dharmesh, or should we move on, mate?
Yeah, to be fair, just with the Lookman stuff, I think the move to Fulham, I think at that time, I think was too early in his career, where he didn't really set anyone alight, because I think Fulham back then were sort of relegation sort of team, and the pressure was sort of on Lookman to be the main man at the club. But with Atalanta now, he's totally smashed it. I mean, didn't he bag a hat trick in the final last season? Am I right in saying that?
Yes.
Yeah, he bagged a hat trick, and he links up well with the attackers around him, the striker up front as well. And I mean, it will depend on the price for me. I mean, if it meant selling Sancho but then getting Lookman, like, I would take that personally, but I just don't think realistically we're gonna go all out for a winger in terms of pricing wise above like the 40-45 million mark. I don't think we're gonna go above that. And when you look below that, then that's why I'm sort of saying, like, yeah, I would keep Sancho. But I agree with Scott what he's saying about the planning and stuff. I think long term it probably wouldn't be the best sort of solution. But then we don't know how good this Quenda guy is in terms of weighing a Chelsea shout. We don't know how good he's going to be. So it's a lot to think about in both sort of arguments, to be fair.
No, definitely. You know, and I think it's an interesting argument to make that Lookman could be the right player for the. He's running down his contract, if I'm not wrong, or is he being sold?
So there was all that business that happened with Gasperini, where he made some weird comments about him.
Yes.
But there has been reports of that he wants to move on. I don't think he's running his contract, but he wants to move on this summer.
So he can leave, but it won't. It's not like Jonathan Tah. There's obviously a price for it. You've got to pay it.
Yeah, like he's not obviously his contract running down, but like it's not like he's running down his contract.
He just wants
to move on. Yeah.
Okay. Because interesting when you look at the stats of Lookman again. With this all comes back to Sancho as well, with that smart business. I don't know how much you can get for Lookman. I'd probably value Lookman more than I'd value Jadon Sancho. These are Lookman stats here in Serie A. And I think you're looking realistically at a player who's probably worth upwards of 50 million, maybe 60 if he is a key player for Atalanta. But I say that it hasn't played necessarily as many minutes as I expected. But still getting 18 GA in 27 appearances in the league. He's got 100%. Record of scoring or assisting in Champions League games. Now, that's a player who can perform on the big stage and be consistent in the league with a little bit of creativity as well. But the main theme here that I like is he's scoring goals. It's not just about creating; he's scoring, and I think that's one thing that we're missing. And when you compare that with what we have with Jadon Sancho, we see a player who really he hasn't stacked up much GA this season. That GA is not everything, but it's something, and it's something we can judge any player even if we don't watch them. I guess that obviously you've got to do the test with your eyes as well and see what the player can contribute, which is one of the reasons that me personally I quite like watching Pedro Neto, and I think he's just a great player to have in the team. Is his GA good? Not really, but there's obviously a reason that a lot of fans like him. So when you compare what Sancho has, and this is in the Conference League, 5 assists, is more creative than a goal scorer. And then you compare that with what you see with Lookman, a little bit more goals in the locker. I think that's what I would personally lean towards if I had to choose between the two. Now, again, it depends on the club. Also, you've got to look at the age of the players as well. Now, Sancho's, we're not sitting here with a 20-year-old player. He's 25, but Lookman's 2 years older. And I think all of these are factors, unfortunately, when Clearlake look at investing in players, because the key word is investing. They're not looking to purchase a player for footballing reasons. They want to know that there's resale value. They want to know that, if they were to sell the player, they could get their money back. All these different factors that, a 27-year-old actually doesn't look as attractive as a 25-year-old. And maybe this is me just, sort of looking at small aspects, but I think this is what the club actually think about. I think they really do value that. And also I've looked at his market value as well. It's 60 million euros. So it would be about 50 million quid. I just struggle to see us paying that and then giving him a decent wage. Proper Premier League wage. I'm talking 200 grand. That's probably what he would want. I don't know. I mean, let's see. I mean, what do you think, boys? What do you think?
No, I agree on the sense of, like, I don't think we will get him. That's why I said he's my preferred option. I will say if you're giving the option of Sancho or two of the three wingers we've been linked with, I'm taking Sancho. Even Nico Williams, I don't think we'll get him because the wages. It comes back to recruitment and the way our squad's put together, because like you put there the stats, and I agree stats aren't always everything, but Sancho's output has been really bad for ourselves particularly, but just since he's left Dortmund. If him and Neto are going to be our wingers next season, we are so reliant on that striker getting 20 plus, 25 plus goals in the league for us to be getting top four, challenging. Which, if that's the case,
not 23, by the way, he's 25.
Yeah, he's 25. Which, if that's the case, then the strikers we're linked with, like, they're not getting 25 league goals for us. So, like I said, the way this team's just being built is a mess. Like, it makes sense.
We'll be relying on Palmer as well to obviously find his form again and score those goals as well as that. Say that striker you're on about as well, Scott. As you've seen with, for example, teams at City, how reliant they are on, like Haaland, for example, to get their goals. But then obviously their wingers are, on paper, they're decent players. They're decent footballers. They have attributes of wingers, but will they get that output, for example, that, say, the Liverpool front three have, or like the Arsenal front three have? I think it's completely different. So yeah, we're in a situation at the moment where, for me anyway, I do think our wingers are good, but at the same time, we need killers up front. We need killers up front who kill off games. Like, look at the amount of chances we missed this season with all the wingers that we have at the club at the moment. And yeah, I just don't want us to rely on one person to score the goals like we did last season with Palmer.
Yeah. I think that's systematic as well. Like you just spoke about City, that obviously they play a very similar way to what we do, just much more efficient. Again, I'm not advocating for Pochettino here. I'm just saying that a little bit of flexibility would be nice. And I would love to see Palmer play on the right. I'd love to see it. I think, we saw, again, like him in the 10, he's been very creative. There's no doubt about that. But it seems just a bit strange to take away one of your best goal scorers and put them in a position where they will be more creative. Now, again, I appreciate that he's had more shots and missed chances. But, just because you have more shots doesn't necessarily mean that what you're doing is better. Like when we look at, it's like possession, for example. Got 70% possession doesn't mean you're actually dominating the game, does it? I don't know. I just feel like Palmer would be utilized better on the right, and I think you'd free up a number 10 spot as well. That, let's just use Chukwuemeka as an example. I'd love to see Chucky in the squad next season. Absolutely love it, and I think he'd fit Enzo Maresca's system beautifully, because he is like that perfect balance between a player that has that technical ability. He could I'm sure he's capable of playing in a possession orientated system, but at the same time, he's direct and he knows what to do when he gets into space and he doesn't fuck about. And then you compare that to, let's just say, Dewsbury Hall or João Felix or Nkunku in this system, and it's just totally different. Totally different. One of João Felix's best attributes is meant to be his dribbling. He constantly gives the ball away. When you look at Dewsbury Hall, he's meant to make runs into into goal scoring positions and contribute in that sense. We haven't seen enough of it. Again, game time's obviously a factor. And then when you see Nkunku, just the player's not interested anymore. And obviously that's his fault because you should be given 100%. But I think that stems from poor management personally. If you would have played him in his natural position, maybe, we'll never know, but you could have got more out of the player. So, we've had... there's a number of different approaches we could take. I mean, I don't see Maresca changing anything. I don't see him putting Palmer as a right wing. I don't see that happening. But if he was to do that and that was to free up a spot on the number 10, that would give Chukwuemeka a great role to play in this team next season. And maybe Esteval as well. Because if I'm not wrong, Esteval wants to play as a number 10. Am I right in saying that, boys?
His agent said that. I don't know about him himself. So,
well, the agent's obviously speaking for the player, isn't he? So, like, these are all factors where I think Palmer's just a great player to have on the right side. I think his work rate is actually arguably the best in the team. I think he's right up there. We know that from a fitness perspective, he wins the bleep test consistently. He's one of the fittest players in the squad, if not the fittest. And that's just not really something you'd associate with Cole Palmer. You'd expect him to be a player that, almost like your Ozils and players like that, very creative. They're maestros, but when they don't have the ball, they don't want to get stuck in. And I don't see that. I see a player that tracks back, a player that presses, and does all of the. It's like a manager's dream, and he doesn't complain. He's just a great personality to have in there. Maybe not a leader, but hits basically every checkbook that I can think of. It's the majority of them. So. Yeah, that's what I want to see. I want to see Palmer on the right, and I want to see Chukwuemeka coming back as well, which kind of leads me into the next point, which is that Chukwuemeka is apparently doing quite well at Dortmund. This is just according to Niko Kovac, the Dortmund manager. He said he's a massive fan of him, and if he hadn't have had game time at Chelsea, he would have never, ever gone to Dortmund in the first place. But he's a big fan of the player, and just loves the way he plays. So, first of all, let me ask you this, boys. Do you have a similar stance to me on Chukwuemeka? Would you like to see him remain at Chelsea, or do you think we just need to offload him and send him to Germany?
I would still keep him, to be fair. Just based on what minimal sort of game time I've seen of him and what he can bring to the team. But then on the flip side of it, it's kind of like, this is now what, a second or third manager now under him. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe, but that's consistently frozen him out. So is there something that they're seeing that we're not seeing? Is there a reason why he's consistently not getting picked by these managers? So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. But I do definitely want to give him a chance. And like you said, I think in the 10, I think he'd absolutely do bits for us, and even say Champions League games, Europa League games, wherever we're playing next season in Europe, I think you'll take that by the scruff of the neck and improve his goal output a lot. And I do think there's a player in there like physical, strong, good on the ball as well, knows how to pick up a pass as well. And I think as I said, the manager thing kind of concerns me a bit, that a few managers have not picked him for that certain reason. So I wonder if it's an attitude problem there or something, or maybe something in training that they don't like. But yeah, that's my stance.
Sorry. So we are talking about Chukwuemeka, right?
Yeah, Chukwuemeka. Yeah.
I don't think there's an attitude problem. You think that? I don't think
possibly.
So.
Obviously, that's all speculation.
It doesn't strike me as that kind of player, mate.
None of us will know, but there must be some reason why all these managers we've had have not picked him.
Well, I mean, let's backtrack a little bit. So he first started to get proper minutes under Potter, but even then it was like he still didn't get picked enough, to be fair. I remember when we lost 1-0 against City at home. That was the game I'd had it with Kai Havertz, and Chukwuemeka hit the post, if I'm not wrong.
The post,
and I thought to myself, what a player! Like, honestly, one of the few
best on the pitch. Yeah.
Who was that other guy, the midfielder beginning with a Z?
Zakaria.
Zakara was quite good, if I'm not wrong, in that game as well. But yeah, Potter never really gave him an opportunity. And everyone was like, well, why are you not playing him? And then obviously Lampard come in. And then you had Pochettino the next season, who was going to build his squad around Chukwuemeka. Well, he's consistently featured in pre-season, starting in the Premier League, scored that great goal against West Ham, and then next thing you know, he gets injured. So, like when Poch definitely wanted to play Chukwuemeka. He was definitely a part of his plans. Then when we come to Maresca, I mean, that's a different animal because you've got Cole Palmer who you immediately want to play in the 10. So you have basically from the get-go frozen out Chukwuemeka from being able to be a starting player consistently. But still a massive argument to be had about whether the player can get minutes at Chelsea. And I think the answer would be, yeah, of course he would. You can't just have one player in one position all the time.
I do want to see it. He does deserve it.
But then we sign João Felix and we sign Dewsbury Hall, who's not really a 10, but you could argue he can also play in that position. And that just bumps Chukwuemeka down to the bottom of the pecking order, which in hindsight, he should have always been number 2. And he would have always offered Maresca, a better option. But you can't have it all in life, can you? So he's gone out on loan. And I think he did actually have a small injury problem in Germany, but he seems to be back and fit. But I mean, Scott, what's your take on Chukwuemeka? Do you like him as much as I do?
I like him as a player. I think he needs to show he can stay fit. That's his biggest issue that he's had basically since he's come through with us. I think I'm having a look now. He's played nearly the same amount of minutes in Germany as he had the entirety of last season, even with the injury problems he's had since he's gone there. He's only started like 2 games. 3 games, including the Champions League game. I just hope he does well. I think we're past the point where he can feature in this squad. I think there's just too many other people in his position, and especially with who we've got coming back in the summer. Like there's just no space for him. There's no space for Dewsbury Hall. So there's no real space for Carney in the squad.
You don't think there's space for him?
I don't think so.
Is that under the assumption that Felix is staying?
No, I think like even if Felix goes, I still don't think there's space for him in the squad or everyone else we're trying to include. Because we already know Palmer's going to basically play every game, as he probably should if he's the starter. And then I look at the other guys where else he could play. Like he could potentially play in the Enzo role, but that's going to be Enzo's role. And then the back of that is Andre Santos, and Andre Santos' levels clear of basically everyone else we have in that position. So yeah, I just don't think there's space. I think the best thing for us and for him is to move somewhere else. It's not going to be Dortmund, I'll tell you that much. But
why don't you think it's going to be Dortmund?
They haven't got the financial power. Yeah,
but who said they're going to pay 40 million?
Unless they're putting the fattest like sell-on fee that we have seen, they're not. Their highest transfer spend ever is 35 million euros.
Who was it?
Dembele.
Oh, well, they got a good return on that, didn't they? So
they did.
Good business.
They rarely like. I think they've spent more than 20 mil on a player like 4 times.
How much was Haaland? Was Haaland about 25 million?
Oh, he was like cheap because they bought him from Molde.
Yeah.
Let me have a look.
No. He wasn't. He didn't come straight from Molde. He was.
Oh, no, not Molde. From Salzburg.
Yeah.
20 mil for Haaland?
Must have been, yeah.
20 million euros.
Yeah, that makes sense. Look, when you make that argument,
like unless they're going to pay, like I said, unless they're going to pay like 15 million and go 50% sell on, which you could see them doing, because they know they can sell him for huge. But I don't know whether Clear Lake would accept that. The only other way I can see it happening is if you include him in some sort of swap deal for Bino Gittins. Which I think if you're going to keep Sancho, it's like
in swap deals though, because that has no financial. That's not financially beneficial to us. We want money in. It's all about money.
No, as in so like we buy Bino Gittins, they buy Carney.
Right.
Yeah,
like we did with the Kellyman and Matson thing, or like we did with the Gallagher and
there were 2 homegrown players.
Not necessarily.
That was pure profit. That's all about. I mean, we spent what 19 million on Chukwuemeka.
Something like that.
So I think very much that look, there's a player with just I'm going in Clear Lake's head now. I've got my Clear Lake cap on, my money hat, and if we get an offer for 30 million, I'll probably accept it. To be honest with you, if there's a long negotiation.
Depends on where it's going to come from, is the thing.
Well, let's just presume it's Dortmund.
I could see him go to the somewhere else in the Prem. Somewhere he might even go back to Villa or something like that. I could see that happening. Genuinely,
that would be nasty, mate, if he went back to Villa. But actually, no, I don't see him going back to Villa. He hasn't got a spot in that team. Not ahead of Rodgers. Not ahead of some of those. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure if I could see Chukwuemeka in that side. I think ultimately he just needs to go somewhere where he's appreciated and plays regular minutes. And I'm not saying that he's going to play week in, week out at Chelsea, but I do think there is definitely an argument for him to be a part of this squad next season. Let us know in the chat as well if you agree with that. I mean, Jordan thinks that Dortmund will pay.
They're not paying 40 million.
Alex and reports said he has an RC
release clause. It's 40 million. Dortmund are not paying 40 million for Khan Chukwuemeka.
Also, you've got to look at it. Also, it's not just from a recruitment perspective in terms of what the sporting directors want. I don't know really what Dortmund's policy is. I mean, I have a good idea, but we've got Niko Kovac publicly coming out saying he loves the player. So, do you not think that has a little bit of weight when they look at who they want to bring in? Also, you've got to look at the situation Dortmund are in. Germany not playing particularly well in the league. Don't think they'll be getting Champions League football. They'll be wanting to back the manager they have to give him some sort of support to get them back up where they need to be.
No, 100%, but they're not spending 40 million. Like, I'm looking at their transfers here. Like, they spent 28, and this is in euros, by the way, 28.5 million on Max Bayer in last summer. Before that, they spent, like, Adeyemi, they spent 30 on. Dembele, 35. Haller, 31. Like, then, as I said, 30 maybe, 25 more likely. They are not spending 40 million euros or pounds. It would be 40 million pounds. That'd be more in euros. That'd be their most expensive transfer ever. Like, unless Carney is the second coming of, like, Musiala, which he's not, otherwise we would have kept him. Like, they're not spending that money. He'd have to be their best player for them to even consider paying that money.
I mean, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Do you have any last thoughts on that, Dharmesh?
Could you see a situation where he maybe goes to Bayern Munich or something like Juve?
Munich. Whew.
Yeah, interesting.
That would be
interesting. Yeah,
an interesting
deal.
I mean, Bayern, they do some weird things, man. So
they do. Yeah. That's so. Bayern Munich could be an option for him, and I think he'll tear it up as he is sort of right now. He's the league's taken to his stride, and I think even someone in the chat mentioned Strasbourg as well. That's probably an option as well for him. Goes to Strasbourg and plays his football there. So yeah,
it's true. It is true. Big up to AK. Thanks for the super chat. You can put a message on there as well. You don't have to just send. You don't have to just put the super chat, but appreciate the generous donation. Right, let's move on, guys. We've got some interesting. I've got an interesting quote for you here from former Man United defender Paul Baker, who has compared Liam Delap as the English version of Diego Costa. Here's what he had to say. He said, he's definitely more athletic in the way that he goes. I would say he's like an English version of Diego Costa. He doesn't make it easier on anybody. His team comes first. He will fight for everything. This lad has got fire in his belly. He's an old school striker. There aren't many players like him at the moment who seem like they're playing for the love of playing the game. What's your take on that one? I think that's an interesting quote. And by the way, I'm just going to say this. I've actually said this myself. I do think that Delap is a little bit similar to Costa in terms of the way he tries to play. Tries to rough players up, hold the ball up, just cause problems. And he walks on that fine line. Not quite getting red cards and stuff like that, but there are moments where you think, fucking hell, maybe you should have got booked for that.
I think the quote it's baffled me a bit. I can't even lie. The fact that we're sort of comparing, or sorry, we're not, but this ex-Man United defender.
We're not. I don't think it's a comparison in terms of GA. He's just talking about playing style.
Playing style. I mean, I could kind of see what he means by that, but at the same time, like, Do I think Delap's a good player? Yes, but do I think he'll be the level of, like, say, Diego Costa was for us and for Atletico Madrid? No, I personally don't see it. And I always said that if we are to sign Delap, he should be the one learning off the polished striker that we have. So, say for example, if we had Harry Kane, for example, complete striker at the moment, it's never going to happen, obviously. But say Delap was learning under Harry Kane, say Delap was our backup striker, then I'd be down for it. But him coming in as number one striker for us, I think he'll work, but I think we'll have sort of the similar issues that we're having at the moment, where our forwards and strikers are sort of struggling to get that output. But I could be wrong. You never know. We're not going to know until he actually plays inside for us. But I definitely think there's a player in there, but I think he's like a little bit overrated. I can't lie, a little bit. By, say, rival fans and Ipswich fans themselves, they obviously haven't got.
When you
much
say
talent.
overrated, though, like what? Because I agree, he's overhyped. I'd say he's overhyped.
Yeah, I think that's a better word. Overhyped, yeah. Overhyped, yeah.
Why do you think that is, though? Do you think that's just because there's not enough good strikers out there? And also, just coming back on that, if there isn't enough good strikers out there, and we don't get the other two, which everyone is saying is world class, then that leaves you with no other options. So surely that would be reason to sign this player. I'm not saying prioritize Delap. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying there's not many out there, and you've got one who's clearly capable of getting at least sort of 15, and that's at a team like Ipswich. So by that logic, you'd hope he could add another 5-10 goals playing in the better side.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. Obviously, we obviously want. We all want Gyökeres and Osimhen at Chelsea. They're obviously the top two sort of targets that all the big clubs are going to go for. But I do think Delap's an option. And how much will he cost, by the way? Will he cost about
30 million, mate?
30, okay, right. Yeah. See, I mean for that price, as I said, would be good, but then you want someone with him to contest with him and be better, if that makes sense. As I go back to that Harry Kane thing I said, where you want a polished striker alongside Delap, not playing in the same team, but someone to learn off him, if that makes sense, and not as our not putting so much pressure on the guy at that age as well. So that's my stance on Delap. I would take him, but I just don't think he'll elevate it as much as, say, a Gyökeres or an Osimhen, in my opinion, anyway.
I mean, let's look at the other option as well, which is something I've said, and I'm probably still say it. I mean, systematically, Jonathan David may be a little bit similar to Jackson, but I'd argue he's probably a better finisher, more experience as well, and has pedigree in Europe. Good stats this season. He's a free transfer with an even lower wage than Liam Delap at the moment. Delap's on 45k, and what's his name? Jonathan David's on less than 40. So these are both players that can easily fit into our wage structure. We can give a nice bump, and I think would hugely help this team progress. Now, I guess then the argument is you bring those two strikers in. Where does that leave Jackson? There is an argument for Jackson to play on the wing. Will that happen? Probably not. Do I think that we'll bring Jonathan David and Delap? Probably not. But when we look at financial opportunities, and again, put in my, what would Chelsea actually do? What are we genuinely thinking? Those are very opportunistic signings, and it's got our name written all over them. Even if we have to, bump the wage up to 150, which, by the way, is 20,000 more than what we paid Cole Palmer, even with his recent contract extension. I think it would make sense, because you've got two players then that you almost guarantee you'll make a profit on, and they're young, and they will improve the side. There's no doubt they'll improve. But then that goes against the argument of, Osimhen would score even more goals and he'd do even more. But I just don't see that ambition. I'm not seeing the ambition up top. When I hear Bowley speak, when I've heard Ed Barley talk about Chelsea, I'm not hearing that or seeing that with the sporting directors. We will move on to the sporting directors as well to finish off, because there's been another update on them. And I don't see it from our manager. And that obviously trickles down to the players. So very, very difficult to predict anything that the club is doing. But if we were having this conversation 5 years ago, we would know that Victor Osimhen would already have been a Chelsea player. but times have changed. And I just think that our thought process when we sign players have changed dramatically as well.
No, I agree. On that quote, by the way, that's embarrassing. That's genuinely like the only thing they have in common is the fact they're both white. Genuinely disgraceful with the office to even mention Delap's name in the same sentence.
There you go, have some of that. Have some of that, mate.
Just embarrassing. Like, are we completely honest? By the way, going back to the hype thing as well. There's only one reason why he's getting the hype that he is. There's only one reason, and that's because he's English. If he was French or Spanish or German, he would not be getting hype. And do you know how I know that? Go and look at how much hype Brian and Buemo's got at Brentford in comparison.
Love and Buemo.
How much played in this league for longer? It's more. I know for a fact it's more than Delap's.
By the way, I'd be open to Buemo.
Yeah, it's 18 league goals this season, playing as a striker.
Is he playing as a winger or as a striker? Because
he played as a striker last year as well. When him and Tony played together, they play as double strikers. Like, he's played as a striker most of his career in the Premier League at Brentford, since Thomas Frank's been there at least. Has played better than Delap. Has got more goals than Delap. He's playing a better team than Delap. He doesn't get anywhere near the same hype. So I know the reason why Delap gets as much as he does. And you see comments like this, and it's nonsense. Like, trying to compare what Diego Costa did and his ability, and it's not even just his ability, it's the
but again, he's talking about the way he plays. That's what he's talking about, and I actually agree with that. I'm not saying that he's anything like Costa in terms of output, but his style, the way he tries to approach players and defenders and cause it, I would say that that's a fair assessment.
I don't think he's anything like Diego Costa, not in terms of the way he plays. Because with Costa as well, it wasn't just the way he played; it's the way he got in defenders' heads. It was the shithousery he did. It was all the stuff. Delap doesn't have that, and I don't expect him to have that at his age. But he doesn't have that, so they're not in any way, shape, or form similar. And I see other Chelsea fans trying to do this, and it's the same nonsense about how you had Chelsea fans talking about Jackson to be the next Drogba. For the love of all that's holy, I beg Chelsea fans, stop doing these comparisons. Because you're not helping players. And I know this didn't come from a Chelsea fan, but I'm sure Chelsea fans in general. Stop doing these comparisons. You're not helping players. It's the same idiots who then said, oh, Palmer can be our next Hazard. No, he can't. Because Hazard was otherworldly. He just came off winning a league title, being the best young player, arguably the best player in France. Palmer's not that. Palmer may get to that point, probably won't ever. Doesn't have to get to that point. We're talking about one of the best players to ever grace the Premier League. And it's the same with this. It's like Delap doesn't have to get to that level, and it's fine because Drogba's one of the best strikers. He's the second best striker I think we've ever had at Chelsea, at least from a Premier League standpoint.
Who's number one?
What do you mean, who's number one?
Best? Who's better than? Are you saying Costa was better than Drogba?
Yeah, Costa's the second best. Drogba's the best.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying Drogba was the second.
No.
Sorry, that's what I thought.
That's what I thought as well.
So
I think you said that.
Yeah.
Apologies. So Costa's like the second best Chelsea striker that we've had, at least in the Premier League era. Delap's not going to probably get to that level. At least I don't think he will. He might, but probably won't. That's fine. That's absolutely fine for him not to get to that level, because a lot of players won't get to that level.
It's kind of like Giroud as well. Like, we never had.
Yeah, like Giroud was a perfectly good striker for us.
Yeah,
he's probably the fifth best striker we've ever had at this football club, maybe sixth.
Yeah, I agree.
That was fine. That was absolutely fine. And that's what I'm saying. And these comparisons don't do these, because what happens if Delap doesn't live up to this? Because you put pressure on him saying, oh, he's like the English version of Costa, the way he plays. Like, no, he's just Liam Delap. He's just the first Liam Delap who's going to become as good as he's going to become. And let him become to that. Like, instead of doing this nonsense and putting pressure on the kid for no reason. Like, to me, it's just stupid.
I would say that's just a compliment. I mean, that's what I would say. It's a compliment.
I think there's better ways you can word it. Then I say he reminds you of like for example, everything in
Alvaro Morata.
Not Morata. I'm saying just don't compare him to a player in specific. Like, that second paragraph in the quote is absolutely like fine. That is a perfect quote. Say like he's like an old school striker. You haven't used any examples. You say he reminds you of strikers from old. You haven't done any examples. That's fine, because there's a bunch of old strikers from old school strikers who were good, great, some crap, but most were good or great. He could get to that level. You've now said, oh, he plays like he's the English version of Diego Costa. There are going to be people that run with that.
No, it's true.
Same way there are people that run with the baby jogger thing for Jackson and all that nonsense.
I kind of see it with like the Enzo and the Fabregas comparisons as well. Like obviously, like Fabregas like was levels, and obviously Enzo's a great player as well. But we should be putting these experts. Even like I love Caicedo. For me, he's been our best player this season. But there's comparisons with Kante as well. I mean, like I don't know why Chelsea fans do this. To be honest with you,
Well, I think it's just
like,
interesting to talk about. Like, I think it's interesting. It's not saying one player is good and one's bad. It's just they're different, aren't they? So it's interesting to compare.
They're different, but it's that expectation of like you expect this player to be this player. And obviously, there's the Jackson Drogba stuff, and then as Scott mentioned, the Hazard and like Palmer stuff. And I've even had Juan Mata thrown in as well with like stuff with that Cole Palmer comparisons. It's like these players were like
who
elite, like great.
Juan Mata.
Oh, Juan Mata.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and I think sorry to cut in. The issue isn't the comparison; it's when you're doing the comparison. Comparing Kante to Caicedo now is stupid. Caicedo's been here for coming up to 2 years. As good as Caicedo's been, he's been nowhere near the level of Kante has been, and I don't expect him to be at this point. He's younger. He's playing in a worse team. He's playing under a worse manager than Kante had. He's like the scenarios are not the same. Trying to compare players from how they like it's trying to compare Vinny to Ronaldinho. Like, that's silly because like Vinny could win a Ballon d'Or. He's still not on Ronaldinho's level because the level of football now, in my opinion, is worse, and the players that he's playing with are worse.
When you say the level of football, like what do you mean?
Just general football. I think the level of the average football nowadays is way worse than or the top level of football nowadays is way worse than it was back. So
you think that like back in the day, Vinny wouldn't have been like as good if he was.
Vinny would have been a bench player on that Barca team, bro.
Yeah, even like compared to like say obviously I don't like to use the word compare, but if you were to put him in say Bale's position at Real Madrid, I don't think that there's no way like it's not.
He doesn't start over Bale in that team.
No chance. No. Obviously, not going to put
Ronaldo. So. Yeah, you just this why the comparison makes no sense. Compare like Caicedo to Kante or these other comparisons people do, and like after they've been like in 5 years' time, if Caicedo's still here, then do the comparison. Even if he hasn't played as quite a good team, at least you've got a 7-year period to go. Okay, this is how he's played. Does he measure up to Kante's time here? How close is he? Doing it now is silly. Yeah, doing it now is silly. Like Enzo, for example. Half of Enzo's time here has been him playing either with an injury or just playing like shit. So trying to compare him with anyone is ridiculous because half his time here has not been good. So you've got at best a season to go off of him playing well. I don't understand how you compare anyone after a season.
I mean, David Ornstein, he's come out and he said Liam Delap is Man United's #1 target, but there are a lot of other suitors for him, including Chelsea. So there's no guarantee that will happen. He thinks Liam Delap will decide before the under-21 European Championships where he wants to go.
When does that start, by the way?
What was that, mate?
When does that start, the under-21?
The 11th of June. So basically, he will be joining a club in the first bit of the primary transfer window, if that makes sense.
Does that mean that he would be able to compete for us in the Club World Cup?
Yes, if we did.
If he signed in those first 10 days, yes.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Well, that would be fine. Now, I mean, I'm not just saying Delap. I think it's good that we can get players in at that point. I've booked my flights today to America, so
nice. Bro.
You know, actually, it was all right. I got an 850 return. That's pretty good. I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So I'm flying into Atlanta. I'm flying back from Orlando. I'm going to be there for 3 weeks. Banking on Chelsea, obviously not getting to the final. No chance. It's not happening, is it?
Nothing to worry about.
Yeah. So I thought I watched the first 3 games. I'm presuming. Is it last 16 then, or is it straight into quarters?
No,
last 16, I think, isn't it?
I remember.
Actually, wait, no, there's not many teams in it, so it's got to be quarters. I think it's got to be quarters.
If they're in the quarters, then I'll be able to watch that as well.
Oh, okay. There is, yeah. Okay.
Do you know what date the round of 16 is? What date is it?
It's the. Let me check. It'll be on a different day. What group? We're in D.
D. Yeah.
It'll be the 29th of June.
29th. So I'll be able to watch that, and probably won't be able to watch the. Actually, maybe I can watch.
You won't be able to unless you're going to travel
I'm coming
up
back
to
on
Atlanta.
the 5th. On the 5th. So,
Yeah, that's the day of the quarters.
Fuck. All right.
And it's also in Atlanta. You'd have to go back to Atlanta from.
Hopefully, I'll be able to watch that on the plane.
Probably because we play in Miami on the 29th in the round of 16. Should win that depending on who we face. And then we've got quarterfinals against in Atlanta on July 5th, which is where I think we go out.
I believe it's true that we face Esteval, right? Possibly, or is that no?
Yeah.
Am I getting confused? Yeah.
In the quarterfinals, we face one of. Actually, let me check. I want to make sure that where's the Atletico Madrid? No, we don't.
Okay.
Hang on. Yeah, no, we don't. The earliest we'd be able to face Palmeiras would be the semi-finals if we got there. No, sorry, I tell a lie. It'd be the final if we got there.
Oh my god, jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird the way the thing lines up. But the most likely team we'll face in the quarters is going to be one of Atletico Madrid or PSG.
Oh god.
Yeah, we'll lose that. We definitely lose that. We lose to Atletico. We lose to PSG. Atletico's like our worst nightmare. Low block.
Honestly, the way they're playing at the moment, I would back some of the Brazilian teams to beat us.
Oh, 100%, mate. The thing is, the Club World Cup is a different animal as well, especially if you've got Brazilian fans filling up the stadium, which maybe there is a good chance that could happen. It's not like a million miles away. I think they're going to get, like, I've heard some, good stories about, some of the atmospheres when we played in the Club World Cup in 2012. And who did we lose to in that one in the final? Was it Flamengo?
Was it Atletico, wasn't it? Falcao hat trick?
Yeah, no, we lost to Atletico.
Mate, I'm talking about.
Okay.
It was Corinthians.
Oh, Club World Cup, that's it.
Corinthians. They're Brazilian, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember hearing. I spoke to a guy who went to that, and he was like, "It was fucking unreal." I don't know. It's just different kettle of fish when you play on the world stage. It's different. It's not like a normal league game, and obviously they're used to it, aren't they? And we've never really in England.
It's also
our atmosphere is rubbish compared to that.
It's also going to be for like the Brazilian teams, the Mexican teams, the American teams could be halfway through their season, so they're going to be match fit and ready to go. We're going to have had near a month break of no.
There's been no confirmation about what's going to happen there either. Like, it just seems like Premier League's going to go ahead, and is what it is.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, you can't complain about the financial side of it. It's pretty attractive.
It is. But yeah, it just means we're just going to end up having like a really, really short preseason. So unless we use the Club World Cup for preseason, it's going to be a bit all over the place.
Just got to get our business done as soon as possible. Then we can at least say, obviously, this is the Club World Cup. We need to obviously win this thing, but then at the same time, we can sort of get a feel of the players that we have going into next season as well, and use that as a sort of a confidence builder.
Definitely, man. I mean, you both think we're getting through the group stage of the Club World Cup, right?
100%. Yeah, like I think we definitely beat Tunis. I think we maybe beat Flamengo. Like we should. It'll be again. It all depends on how we play. Yeah, and I think Club America will give us a game as well. But like we should get through. We'll beat the team from Group C, which I think will be Benfica based on how the group lines up. Then, as I said, I think we lose to PSG or Atletico.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Yeah,
fair argument. Yeah, agree with you, Scott. To be fair, I agree with you. Let me know what you think in the chat as well, guys. We've got over 100 of you in the building. Smash the like button if you haven't already. How many likes are we on? Let me know, guys, in the chat. I have no idea what we're on at the moment. I always forget to encourage people that you're meant to do it like multiple times in the video, aren't you? You're supposed to do it at the beginning, in the middle. I always forget, and then at the end. Let's have a look. 66 likes, people. Let's get up to 90. Just a little push. Come on, guys. It all helps, doesn't it? It all helps. Listen, appreciate all your time as well, guys. Dharmesh, mate, pleasure having you on. This first stream we've done together, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is, bro. Yeah. First ever one.
I've got to
Yeah.
get you on the streams more, man. Do you go on any other channels? You do the shed thing?
Yeah, so go from the shed and then sometimes I'm on Charlie's one as well. So yeah.
You used to be a regular on that. You used to go on all the time.
It's
What
just-
happened? What
timing.
changed?
It's just timings, like with work and stuff like that. Because obviously
You've got a girlfriend now. That's what it is.
Add that as well.
All good, man. All
And
good.
obviously go to games as well. So yeah.
It's true. It's true. It's true. Well, listen, guys. Appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much as well, Scott. When's the next show? Are you doing the
Sunday.
Friday? Oh, you're not doing the Friday one.
No, I'm doing Sunday.
Oh yeah, Sunday. I'm with you. Oh, that would be me and Kevin. That'll be good fun, mate. That'll be great fun. Listen, guys, appreciate everyone watching. Thanks so much if you were tuning in for the whole show. If you didn't, make sure you jump in nice and early next time. It's 10 o'clock pretty much every day, unless it's a match day. Other than that, you can catch the lunch shows as well, which are at 1 p.m. We'll be back tomorrow with another lunch show. That will be Charlie, Lewis, and an Everton fan will also be jumping on to preview the Everton game. So check that one out tomorrow, and we will catch up very, very soon. Enjoy the